Tell me if you can hear that. Does that work? Cool. What if? He started a podcast. Who knows? What could happen? There you go.
Are we ready? All right. We are chatting again with Mike Schwartz. Last time we chatted with Mike was back in episode 25, which was almost a year ago. And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, we encourage you to go give it a listen because it was a pretty good one. We had plenty of laughs and a fun conversation. Mike, the Rock Doctor Schwartz, helps world-class coaches sing their song and bring out the inner rock star in musicians. He is breaking rules and disrupting patterns. And Mike, we are really glad to have you back again. A lot has happened in this past year, and we want to know what's new and exciting with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for asking. No, seriously, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That was, what an intro. Guys, what is happening? Currently, I'm really digging into this archetype stuff. That's what's really happening. Music and archetypes. Finding like the holes in my game per se. And putting together really dope content for helping brand other coaches' messages. Remind me if we talked about this. It's been a mission of mine to help rather than compete against all the other coaches, because there's a lot of us. And we're all saying, maybe could be classified as similar messages. We're all trying to, the process and the purpose is generally the same. We want to help make the world a better place. And I thought, hey, I wear a lot of hats. Last time I was wearing a captain's hat. Today I got a Jays cap on. It's crazy. And what if I put on the hat of like collaborating and helping, as you mentioned so gracefully in that intro, other coaches sing their song? I'm a musician. I sing my song. That's what's got me here. And so ladies, we would not have met had I not had the courage to jump in and say, hey, come be on my podcast. Not knowing fully what that meant myself. I don't know what that means, but you should. You should be on the show. Mark England. Wow. Bold move. What's even bolder is when I first met him 13 seconds into it, I called him my dear friend. Like, what? You can hear it on the first episode of that conversation with Mark. 13 seconds into meeting the guy, calling him my dear friend. Didn't know him from a hole in the ground. He covered for me, though. And my point is, the saying of fake it till you make it goes some ways to build that confidence back up. And I find that that's one of the holes in the game of most coaches, is that I've got this imposter syndrome that I'd love to dig into on here and explore the reasons why coaches fail is a strong word, and I'll use it for now. Fail at podcasting. Ooh, right? What a controversial claim.
Was that it? That's what you're up to?
Okay.
I didn't know if this was a dramatic pause.
That was a dramatic pause. Yeah. No, I can keep on going. You know how I can talk. No, that's currently where I'm at, is digging in and exploring other ways to keep coaches and getting their messages out, because I think we're all doing something really, really special. I've seen it a lot in the last year. There's a lot of little communities popping up that are doing similar things, and wouldn't it be a cool thing to bring it all together and unify that. And that's one of the platforms that I've excelled at is a broadcast, hosting a party, really. It's hosting a party of a whole bunch of really awesome human beings leveling up in multiple areas: lifestyle, nutrition, movement, mindset. That's an overused word. And it's so fundamental, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's a launch point. That's what I'm up to. Making music, making dreams come true, connecting coaches.
Nice. I had a question in there, now let it slip my mind. We're off to a great start here too.
I'm just chilling on mute because, construction's happening behind me. So you guys carry on.
We're going to carry. Oh, Karan's leaving me to figure out that question. Got it.
Well, here, I've got a question for you guys. What do you think the number one reason is most podcasts fail? You guys, here's a great example. You guys have had a very successful campaign since you've launched. Now, what are we at? A year?
Over.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is our 75th interview.
Amazing. So that I would deem, and everybody's opinion on fail is different. And why do you think most people quit? Why, like, have you guys started and stopped in the past? Is this the first? Or is like, what's the key to your guys' success? That's what I'm interested in. And we can probably go from there.
It's been consistency. We've planned in that Wednesday is the day that we both have that we're available. We make sure that the podcast interviews are scheduled for that day within a time frame that works for both of us. And then, the consistency with it and treating it, well, it's fun, but also treating it somewhat like a job. As in, this is what we're doing. We're showing up for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it also really helps to have someone that you're doing it with to hold each other accountable, right? So, if sometimes doing things by yourself, if you're not good at holding yourself accountable, it's easy to be like, oh, I'm not going to show up today. I'm not going to do the thing. But if someone's counting on you, then you have to. You get to.
You get to.
Right?
Or you get them to yell at you. And that's the thing. I mean, you guys hit it on two of the points that I even just made a post about this. It's, man, so many coaches, the failure of accountability, I think, take out the failure of accountability, they'll set themselves up with all the, we could even should detox. Oh, I should start a podcast. I should. Yeah. And how does that make you feel, right? When you're like, oh, it sits on the back burner for so long. And large part of that, you guys both hit the organization, whether that's having the accountability of another partner or the treating it like a job, treating it like it's a serious part of and it can be. That's the amazing part is like podcasting, broadcast, radio, anything that I've done in the entertainment industry. The interesting and pirate gangster approach that I bring to the table on this is that you break the rules because you get to make the rules, right? Like, it's your show. You can do it however you want. And you guys, I mean, I mentioned you in the masterclass there because you guys, I love, for example, the follow-up. Your approach to follow-up will keep people referring people into your show forever. Like, it's just like, that's how good it is. That was one of the first times I'd ever experienced like such a great, clean follow-up card, handwritten stickers, treats. Thank you so much. Genuine, sincere, authentic, loved it. And I went and told all of my friends and posted on social media. Did you ask me to? No, but that's what you made me feel, right? And that's so much of it. You create magic in that person that they want to share, right? That's huge. So many startups miss that.
We understand that without our guests, it would just be Kristen and I talking.
It's true.
That would probably be over by now, right?
How's Bear today? How's Juno doing?
Yeah. Let's talk dog update. How's the weather on the Pacific Northwest, right? So, we appreciate our guests, And we know without people showing up and sharing their stories that we wouldn't have a show.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And this cool stickers that were designed by Kristen.
Amazing, by the way.
And all of the swag, by the way, go check out our swag, because Kristen is the master of designing our swag, which is all pretty
I made
cool.
a flag.
Yeah, we got a flag.
I need to put it back here, but I have.
It's absolute fire. And that's one of the biggest pieces, because a lot of people think about one of the other pieces I say is like there's a complete lack of performance. People come in and it's like there's that fine line. Treat it like a job by structure and framework and organization skills. However, have fun. Like most shows I find, like I'm tuned in and this is like, hello, welcome to the boring day show. Today is another boring day on the microphone. And maybe it's not even that good because this is good quality mic. So maybe it's sort of like, welcome to, you know what I mean? And you can tell that there's so much nerves and a complete lack of confidence, which us as Storywork and Enlifted method, that's where we excel, is unlocking that inner rock star, as I call it, from within, so that they can have the confidence behind the microphone to actually share that message, and then they can actually have the production skills and the performance element brought in. Because when you make it a fun event for that guest as well, which I had a blast, that's why I was very excited to come back in, you get to be yourself. The trouble is, most people as coaches, I find, lack that confidence when you really get down to it. They've still got the imposter syndrome. And I'm curious to see what you guys did too, because I know I have my own story. I went in and just did it. Like I said, that brief story about Mark England. Like I heard him on Bledsoe's Barbell Shrugged and loved what he was talking about. Literally, it could take you right back to the yard that I was working at. I was listening to Bledsoe's Barbell Shrugged for a summer gig that I was working. I had justified this gig as a buddy of mine did lawn care maintenance, and I was helping him out. Really, when we look back at it, it was like I couldn't actually have the confidence to charge what I was worth working out of my home as a strength training coach to make enough doing just that. But in my head, I was doing good service to my buddy who was a musician too, and he needed some people to cut lawn. I'm like, dude, I was like cutting lawn for like 16 hours a day and hating my life. Hating it because I was not. I mean, it was cool to be outside and all, but man, I had ideas to make music, and I had ideas to be like 100 different things I'd rather be doing. The one really great thing is that I got to listen to podcasts all day, so I got really educated really fast. And I came across Barbell Shrugged, which was great because I was learning about how to set my business up better, right? And how to set up and learn from these coaches. And when Mark's show came on, he was talking about language. I was like, I stopped what I was doing. I like turned the mower off, sat back onto the truck, and I was just like listening. So I must have spent like a half hour just like listening to this podcast, not doing work at all. So, sorry, Sean, if you ever listen to this. No, thank you for your understanding, Sean. Let me take that back. Keep my power. So I'm listening to this guy, and I'm like, oh, fuck, this is great. I get home that night, and it's way late, and I send him a DM. I found him. I stalk him on Instagram. And yo, Mark, caught your thing. Really inspiring message. Would love to have you on my show. Left it at that. Mark does back his fashion. Mike Schwartz. Would love to. I'm available Friday Eastern, 2:00. We'll see you then. I'm like, what? Just like straight up. I'm like, holy shit. And I mean, at this time, I'm thinking this guy's like freaking something. Like, I'm going to make that happen. At the time, I was working for sure. So I canceled my day. I probably did the sick thing or something like that. And I booked Mark in. And that's what got me over that imposter syndrome real fast. And you can hear that podcast. I kept it for whatever reason. I thought, like, it's terrible. It's a really good lesson of what not to do, or maybe it's a really good lesson of how to do it, when depending on how you look at it, because like I just jumped in full steam, and Mark really helped. If you listen to that episode, right, I'll get you guys the link so you can take a listen to the clown that's now coaching podcasting. It's a really good come up story. You thought Jay-Z had it hard, living on the streets and then rags to riches? Listen to this clown talk on a microphone. Like, you won't believe what he's done. If you base everything off of that episode, that's for sure. And you take it what I know now is to listen back to everything and listen to it from a feedback or information rather than judgment, right? Because if I had judged myself, I would have stopped right then and there, guaranteed. And Mark helped, being a pro speaking coach. He helped me all the way through. Like he carried that whole conversation. So it was like podcasting for me was much more than connecting. It was literally helping myself heal through connecting with some really amazing people and putting myself in their world. You want to be better? Put yourself around better people. Right? And podcasting is a great way to do that and build your brand, build your reputation. Also help yourself too, right? You're bringing people into the world. We like to help, right? So listen, put your ears on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this is episode 75 that we're recording. And if we compare it to the first, 10 episodes, obviously we had a lot more nerves. And as our good friend Mark's will say, we put the reps in. Like we just kept going. We thugged it out, right? We like, cool, we're just going to keep doing this. We've had guests that it was challenging to pull something more than like a 3-word answer out of them. Like, cool. Well, that was hard. We did it. That episode's only 23 minutes long, but we did it. And then we've had, guests that we didn't get many words in otherwise. So we just started getting the experience and got the reps in and practiced, because nobody starts something and is good at it.
Right. The listening has been huge for me too. Like the listening objectively. And for me, listening with love to myself, because first off, I was having fun going back and then like, this is having a conversation with my friends all over again. And I'd hear myself though too. And I know I have a tendency to like start talking about something and my brain is going, no, you didn't start at the right spot. So now you got to stop everything and go to this spot that I want you at. And so my mouth does what my brain says, but nobody else knows what that connection was that my brain was telling me to do. And I would hear it and I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. And if I had allowed that to get in my way, I would have stopped a long time ago.
Yeah. It sounds like you've really used your coaching to be a better host. Yeah,
with the listening, asking better questions, and then
I guess so.
Being kind to ourselves.
Yeah, and we still have these moments of being super smooth, as you can see. Awkward silences.
It's only awkward if you make it awkward.
Just silences.
That the thing about it, in the course, and in my teaching and coaching, dramatic silence is a sign of respect. Silence, for whatever reason, and we know this from the imposter syndrome, we know this from the story work stuff, what we tend to go, what Mark would call and other coaches would call that machine gun mouth. Why is that? Because we're sympathetic, because we're nervous as shit, and we feel that, hey, maybe there's a story there, but we didn't get the attention, and now you've got a little bit of space, you got 10 seconds, you got to fill it up. What if you just took a breath there and let that sit, though? Right? That dramatic, that radical silence acknowledges that you're listening, right? And the framing, like, Karan, it feels like, to me anyway, putting in the reps and doing something over and over and over has been really beneficial for you. Right? Like, that's clear. You're at 75. Compare it back even 50 episodes.
Just wait till we're at 150.
Exactly. Seeing it now, this is the cool piece, because it also feels like you guys got a big vision in the future.
Indeed.
I'll say with the silence too, letting that sit. It's not actually in real time as long as it feels in the moment either. A lot of times with the listening back too, at times where I'm like, oh, I remember this being a long pause, and I'm listening. I'm like, that was maybe half a second pause. That was barely anything. It just feels big in the moment. So, for podcasting or just general life, those silences are usually a lot briefer. So letting that sit is important. And often people are pausing to think about what they want to say next, or to see if you have a response. And either way, if you pause, you know what you want to say coming up or what feels right, because you can lead from the heart, or they are about to share a lot more than what you would have gotten if you had spoken.
Definitely. Yeah. I can tell you flat out, I produce a handful of other podcasts for other coaches, and I have a feeling more coaches will be coming through to the Enlifted camp, because you can tell who's an Enlifted coach and who is yet to become an Enlifted coach based off of the way that they speak. And that was actually when I first got into level 1. That was the first thing, you know, when you go around the room, for those of us who have been through that, go around the room. What are your big objectives? What do you really want out of this course? Any questions? Mine was like, yo, I'm like Tigger. How am I going to keep my personality up without being off the wall, bouncing all over the place? And my training exercise was immediate, as it is with the sensei himself, Mark England. He says, go grab a book. I was like, what book? He's like, any book. You got a book out there? I was like, yeah, I got a book. And I grabbed Plato's Symposium. He's like, flip it open to any random page. Just open it up. Guess what I opened up to? Page number 69. Now, for those of us who are unfamiliar with classic Greek literature, there's a lot of things that would be faux pas in today's societal norms, such as fornication with young boys. And that's what page 69 is on the Plato Symposium. He's like, now read that in your best thespian. I'm like, he's like, okay, and 30% slower. That's all I'm going to do. And he gave me that, and I did, and it was a theatrical performance, is what it was. Never mind, you know, as he would say, fuck drama. It was not drama. It was theatrical performance. Da-da-da-da, right? And it was exactly what you would expect off of page 69. So I circled that page and dog-eared it, and I'm like, I'm coming back to this. This is hilarious. It'll be memorable. And it's likely still on there. If we've still got that recording, you can catch that if you're in the Enlisted crew. I've got all this like content that I'm realizing as I'm speaking to you guys. See, this is the other cool thing, is that you get to think and you get to talk about things that, and if you're a good conversationalist, you can draw things out of people that they'd never said before, right? You can have a guest who's got multiple, maybe a couple hundred episodes under their belt, and you can be the one that unlocks that one thing that is significant to your audience. Boom, right? That guest is going to let you know too. They're like, dude, I never talked about that. You know how many times I've had that on my shows? Like, dude, I've never talked about that. Well, why do you think that is, guys? You've invited them into the party. You're the host. They're comfortable as shit. What do we have our best thoughts when we're like in the shower, out on a walk? You know, we're in a completely parasympathetic form. So part of our job as a host is to bring that out in people. And because, you know, all three of us are great coaches, we know how to do that. We can unlock that for the people that are on there. So like, you know, anybody that comes in, this might be their first time, you can walk them through that process just like Mark did for me. Right? It's super cool. I love it.
Yeah, I think part of that goes along with being well prepared for your guest. So if we have a guest on and we've already listened to them tell their story on podcasts, and they've told the same story, you know, 7 times on 7 different podcasts, use that as a jumping off point rather than asking the same questions. So get curious about what you've already heard so that you can dig deeper and get to those stories that they haven't told anyone else as well. So I find like when you don't know your guest very well, and sometimes that happens. Sometimes people send us their stuff and they send, you know, their website and an Instagram that has like 4 pictures of like, I don't know, their dog on it. And you're like, well, I know nothing about what this person does, then it is a lot harder to dig into those stories because you know less about them.
That's a very interesting jumping off point right there too, because it sounds like you've got a framework for that, right? And when you say you've got an organization for it, it also sounds like you're one of the crazy hosts that actually goes and like learns about their guests.
What? Shocking. Crazy concept.
Now, why on earth would you do that, right?
Mm.
And one of the skills that I find and that I teach on that is called framing. I've been doing it for like the last 10 fucking minutes. Is instead of asking a question, creating a moment through a frame. And those people that have yet had the opportunity to, because you can, anybody can answer a straight up question. That's what we're programmed to do. But to get curious is actually genuinely listen to the person. So, buddy that was, 4 Instagram posts about their dog. So, it seems like you're really fascinated with your pooch. You could even add maybe a minor question like, what's the dog's name? You just, guess what? That person that's a rescue that they got, the first dog they ever purchased. They could pick it. They'll tell you 150 different things. You might not get to ask another question for another 10 minutes. That's the power of a frame. Because what you're doing is you're genuinely listening. You're listening to the story. It could be their words. It could be what you've picked up on the research. And then you put it back in front of them and frame it. Like, hey, it seems like and that gives them room to explore wherever they want. And that's an open-ended, they can go whatever direction they want. And that sets up, if you're listening again, it sets up the next few questions if you're doing your job right, which, I mean, we all know we are. This is for people like, oh, how do I get around that awkward silence? That's one way. Or just mirroring, with words. They say something interesting or controversial, right? Something like Plato's Symposium, Greek literature, and then you just frame it back. Greek literature? Oh, that gives them room to expand, right? And it's just how we use our inflection, being conversationalist. You can say the same thing, Greek literature, down. Or Greek literature? Smiling face, looking up. It's like, it's the same friggin' words, but it's a very different response that you'll get, right? So depending on how you use that, again, it comes down to the reps, which I know we're all big fans of thugging it out. So interesting, very interesting.
All I want to say back is it interesting?
Yeah, see? Interesting? Using my shit on me? Come on.
What's interesting?
Mark of a true pirate. Yarr. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. And that's the thing. It gives permission to continue, right? And that's the sign of respect, because all great conversation is that. I find that a lot of people get lost or hung up on the hosting thing, is that they have to dictate the whole thing. When really, if you're asking questions, you're keeping control. You don't have to say a damn thing. You just guide the conversation. You have a few, and it comes down to that preparation, I find. Right? But coming back to the reason podcast fails, because they're fucking boring. It's just same standard stock questions that guest has likely answered at least 100 times. How pumped are they to answer it 101, right? If you can find, like you said, a jumping point. Hey, I've heard this story and I'm really interested in how it insert here. Whoa, you paid attention to me. Cool. There you go. That's one way. It comes down to that confidence, though. What did you guys do to, like, I'm really interested in that, because you do have such a interesting story, because it's such a niche market that you're bringing guests into. Like, you got to meet this criteria. That in and of itself is organization, because you're pre-qualifying all your guests, and they got a great expectation of what to do. Also, your pre-questions and your it's like the opposite of follow-up. It's like this is our interview before the interview starts. I'm sitting here going like, shit, I gotta have my shit on lock, which is great. What inspired that? That's what I'm curious about.
part of the question part, what like the intake form was helping us get more structured, so that we could have the place where it's like, all right, you have a website, like this will help us figure out more about you, and it also helps us afterwards. And it gives, just at my table, gives the person coming in an idea of what it is that we're gonna ask. So especially at the beginning, if people were reaching out like, hey, can I get an idea for what we're gonna talk about? And like, you remember that form you filled out? That actually gives you an idea of some of the things that we're gonna talk about. So we'll use that. And then within that, we'll ask you more questions, but that gives you an idea of what the conversation will look like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think surprisingly, people outside of the Enlifted community aren't necessarily that familiar with the whole pirate living concept.
True.
or the Be More Pirate
Mhm.
community. So because we've had guests from both, obviously. So having that little introduction, which has oftentimes led to a conversation before we even hit record of people asking us what's the hell with the pirate stuff. And so we get to tell them what the hell with the pirate stuff. And that usually informs that conversation to like flow a little bit better. So for them to understand a little bit about what pirate living actually means, and why we have the criteria we have for the guests. So if they're coming on and they just want to talk about,
We lost her.
Oh, no. No, we lost her. Oh, bummer. That was great. It was a great thought. Let's insert here what she was gonna say.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just in time, because I was gonna say puppies.
That would most likely be accurate.
Yeah, no, right? Like I'm gonna fill in the blank puppies. Default answer. Yeah.
Bears. Puppies and bears. Puppy
Okay.
bear.
Okay.
Okay,
You
we're
can
back.
hear me. I'm not going to touch it. No touch anything.
Don't touch anything.
Don't move.
Got it. Sit still, hands up. Got it.
I heard the word puppies though. So
Yeah, puppies. We're filling in the blank on what you were going to say, because then you just went mute and we're like, cliffhanger.
I don't even remember what I was saying, to be honest.
It was so profound.
It was so
Wow.
profound.
She was in flow, straight
Yeah,
flow. Oh,
I
that's
literally just gave you guys the meaning of life, but
and
yeah,
well, then we got it
42.
on record.
Yeah, slipped my mind.
42 minutes.
Can't remember what it was. Can't remember what I was saying.
Oh my goodness.
It was profound.
We are pros. PRO, pro.
Also helpful was having huge amount of issues, technological issues in the beginning. So it helped us to not take ourselves too seriously. Yeah.
I mean,
I
don't take myself seriously most of the time. Only when it's like it involves Lance and I should be able to laugh at it. Those are the only times I take myself seriously.
Put on a straight face, like no laughing here. Yeah.
No, I have to be like mad about this, but anytime else.
Oh wow, that goes extreme, 0 to 60 like
yeah.
that. Wow. Yeah, you bring up an interesting point on the performance thing that we can circle back to, is because part of that is as a live music producer in production, what we would look for is the first, if you were in sales, it's look for the no, right? For the first issue, for me to drop my drumstick, or for the microphone to like bump your mouth or whatever, you hit the wrong note, something like that. That lets you settle into it. So the sooner you can get that shit out of the way, I mean, that's perfect. Whether that's like in terms of like a macro cycle of like how many episodes does it take to really understand the technical side, or if it's in each show, like how many times till you blubber up on a word, you screw somebody's name up or something like that. That's cool. You can use that. And let me start that again, like things like that. Or if you've got just a bunch of sound effects where you can really just hone in and
be super serious. No, it's, what are you laughing at?
Okay, we need one. We need that.
You do. Mm-hmm. Do you need it or do you desire it? Because you need a coffee and you also need an ambulance. Is that the same damn thing? I don't think so. Come on, guys. Get it together.
And there, pattern disruption. And that's effective, especially as a host. It was, man, you said it earlier too. Part of that performance is making sure that person, the intake form, it's clear that most guests don't really read it. I have the same experience. Like, so what are we talking about? You remember that thing that you probably spent 25 minutes on? That's actually going to outline everything. Just refer that. I'll just send that back to them. These are the responses you said. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Did you fucking high when you hand this? Like, what is this? Amateur hour. No, and it's approaching that with grace, because then you can feel the overwhelm just go away, right? So that they get on the mic and they have an idea of what's going on. What I get, number one, when I've been going through the market research, what's your number one fear? Why haven't you started a podcast? Or why aren't you you've got a great message. I know your story. You've told me. Why are we not sharing that with the rest of the world? They go, well, this one time I was on a podcast and they didn't really know what to do. And that's, the host had no structure, and it was just and that's anxiety for somebody who's got imposter syndrome already, right? I don't know where the questions are coming. I don't know when they're coming at me, and I don't know how to answer them because I haven't prepared. And if you want to, I also hear this, oh no, I'm just more of a go with the flow. That's my vibe. That's the most amateur thing I've ever heard. Get out of my space. If you want to really screw stuff up, go with the flow. That's one way to do it. Go with the flow. Oh, I'll know what to say when I get there. What? No. Like, okay, it looks like, do you guys have a story about this?
Well, I think it's more about being guests on other people's shows. And when you show up and they're like, yeah, so introduce yourself. And it's like, oh, you don't have an intro prepared for your guests.
Do you know why you asked me on?
So that's one that like that's a red flag for me. When people ask the guest to introduce themselves rather than doing an intro for them.
What do you think's going through that host's mind when they think that that's cool?
Going with the flow.
Hey, I just invited you on my show. It's your show, so you're just going to talk. I'm going to sit here on mute. Like, what do you mean? Like, are you kidding me? I've actually been in that situation. What I did, I was like, actually, I'm curious to see what you think. I've told my story 100 times. What about, how would you describe me? Should have seen their look in their eyes. It was hilarious. That's a big show too.
Nice.
Well, again, it comes back to like, if you're a podcast host, I feel that you can be on other shows to, again, get the whole idea is to get your message out. If you got your own platform, I'd encourage you to get out there on other shows. So I did that for a long time. I do podcast tours all the time, in seasons. And I had this one bigger, I actually, I'll have to double check if this thing actually got to air. But it was a bigger production, and you could, like, they were relying on that branding to be like carrying them. So when a guest comes on and actually catches them by surprise, you can be, as a guest, just as, if not more prepared than your host, and you can help that host, much like what Mark did with me. You can help that person learn the process, and you can walk them through it without any kind of judgment whatsoever. And it's a great way for you to dictate where the show goes, right? If I'm given that opportunity, I'm going to run with it because I have a pre-plan. And that's the thing. I believe it's Jocko Willink. Discipline creates freedom. So you want to go with the flow? Have a structure, because then you can dart off of it. It's the pirate, everybody's here. There's no hierarchy until we hit stormy seas. Then somebody's got to put the fucking cap on, right? Because we got to get through this thing. So you can take the leadership approach on that, and have I call it the Rockstar interview. You can have rather than thinking questions, moments. There's an introduction moment. That's when the listener, because that's what we care about, right? If we can create a moment between us right here and have a really good dialogue, conversation, good story going, that's going to be captivating for the listener. That introduction is the first 10 minutes. That listener is wondering, am I vibing with this? That could be 2-3 questions that are in good, succinct order. For us, of course, it's going to be great. Everybody's going to love this show, right? We're having a good time. Professionals here. If you're still listening, thank you. And if you're not, you didn't hear it. So, whee, right? And then you can get into your first question, your first great question moment. And that's captivating. Maybe that's a piece off of like what Karan, you were saying. Like, I did my research on this person. I know where they're going. So if you're the host, you can come in. Hey, you've told this story 100 times. Let's not beat that horse, right? Let's talk about how it applies to the pirate. How does that apply? Like, that sounds real pirate gangster. Could you expand on how that would be like breaking the rules and setting a new, trend in your industry? What's that done for you? Something that's going to be a profound let them go, right? And then just as the listener is thinking, you're in 15, 17, 18 minutes or so, the listener's like, I got these guys, this is great. Then you give them a curveball. Then you give them what shit. And maybe that's just a different style of question. Maybe you amp up, like, okay, quick, rapid fire. We're going to de-course over here. Rapid fire. You answer instinctively. Taylor Swift, Bieber, go, boom. And this, right? And then you can totally change the game, and then you can bring them back in with another great question, right? Just to give the audience a roller coaster. So they're listening, they're captivated. So 45 minutes feels like, oh shit, where did that go, right? And that's adapted from live music performance. That's what I do with rock and roll stars. So if you want to be a rock star on your interview game, create moments.
Start having random, like either, all right, real quick, first thing that comes to mind, I say blue. Or
Yeah.
this versus that. 1,000 tiny ducks, no, horses, or one giant. Yeah,
Bingo.
however that goes.
And that's the thing, right? Or name your favorite pizza. Like something, and what we would call that in the enlifted camp is a pattern disruption. So that when the listener's listening, it's not here. Because when I do this exercise, I get everybody to list their top 5 or top 10 questions that they ask. And then they rate them on a scale of 1 to Bieber in level of energy. Okay. And Bieber is a 5. Okay. That's where we're going with that Bieber scale. Okay. Just for kids playing at home. So you go, okay, tell me about how you started that's a common one. Like, tell me about how you got into what you do. Cool. That's a pretty comfortable middle of the road type of thing. That's like a 3.5, right? The things that are going to be at the top of the level, 5 out of 5, are the controversial shit. Where you like, give me your thoughts on gender equality or something that's going to stir something, right? As opposed to the number 1, which is really introspective. Could you let our listeners know what you now would tell your former self 20 years ago? Something where you can get really deep, right? Where we can get a lower energy, thoughtful, reflective, heartfelt moment. Okay. And those are 2 other kind of moments that you build into the whole show. So, I mean, we go in the intro, we got a great question, we go change up, curveball. Another great question. After that, big fun moment. So, hey, dude's got a friggin' wood flute. He's a musician. Maybe he'll play some music. Maybe you should ask him. Or, hey, would you be willing to play that? Like I did the Music Fit podcast for a long time. I introduced musicians to brand new audiences, and I incorporated the coaches that would be working. So I worked 2 different things, bringing my skill set together on a podcast. Every single time I would have my big fun moment would be with a coach. I'd be like, hey, I've been experiencing, I'd give them an opportunity to use their specialty right on the show. So that if I had that same problem with a listener, that listener's like, dude, you just solved my problem. That person is now working with the coach on my show. Likewise, if there's a musician coming in and they've just dropped a single, we'll either play the song or get them to do a live rendition right there on the show. Or we'll write a song together. I had freestyle. Of course, I've got beats all the time. So I've got Dio Gibson. I'm like, yo, Dio, you're pretty good. You actually have the freestyle record in the Guinness book. So I'm curious, would you be able to throw down some bars? And on fire, like right on cue. He was like ready to go. You know what I mean? And those are the moments that people are listening for, because that's a show now. How many times have you gone to a live music performance and say, hey, I heard a good concert? No. Saw. It's a performance. It's full. It's imagery. It's everything. Right? So we want to create that experience so that even though you're just a listener, you feel like you're a part of that whole community. You've got that big fun moment, and then right afterwards, we drop all the way back down to a 1. That's a heartfelt moment. And then a closer. Close it off. Wrap that thing up. Not like the Toronto note I'm talking about, the Canadian goodbye. Where, you know, we spend like, hey, okay, well, we're out of here. Thank you. And then we spend another 15 minutes putting our shoes on.
Oh,
Still
Midwest
hanging out in the
learned a lot from
doorway.
you guys.
Yeah.
That's the Midwest goodbye too.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah. That's us. That's the Canadian goodbye. We'll spend another
Oh my
hour
gosh.
after we said we left. It's crazy.
Yeah.
No, we had
I
an
know how that
Aussie.
goes.
Yeah, Ozzy came in and we did a house party thing, and he was like, "Okay, I'm out," and he literally just walked out, like he just see ya, smoke bomb. And that was cool. I was like, man, that was like gangster. Shit. Like he's just like, "Oof, God,
Just say goodbye and leave? What?
Yeah.
What is that?
what is that?" And he doesn't stick around for another 2 hours. What is this weirdo, right? Crikey.
You save
that's-
all the best conversation for right before you go.
Right. Yeah. Oh, by the way, another 6 hours later. And that's the thing, is that a podcast can really drag out from that closing moment. I was a perfect example. I did it all the effing time. Like, okay, final question 25 minutes later. No, final question. You're wrapping that shit up in 5 minutes. You give them a place where they can, maybe you've got a trademark question. I know I love your guys, the pirate joke, man. That's awesome. That's like, it's so signature. It's so great. It's so on brand.
It's,
So
it's retired.
It's retired. Well, hey, it was.
We ran out of
signature,
pirate jokes.
right? I made one up because I couldn't find any new ones.
Oh,
Well, I want to hear
we'll
that
ask
one.
you today.
Well, we'll rejuvenate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll rejuvenate it just in honor of, right? But that's one way. Or you can have the classic signature. It's like, all right, tell us, where can people find you? What do you got going on? And that gives them, okay, cool. And then wrap, done. Thank you so much. Peace, boom, smoke bomb, gangster out, right? Mic drop. And that, if we do that correctly, we've got a great performance. That's one way of making your show less boring. If the show isn't boring, it's because you're not bored or boring, and you'll be more inspired to do it, right? It takes it from the should to the can, all the way. Skips could, right? So I don't know. That's my pirate gangster. This is so cool. I didn't even realize this was sitting right here.
Kiska?
Of course,
Oh,
You more pirate.
I'm
man,
channeling.
mine's-
Sitting right here.
Such a great book.
Is it?
Mm.
So good. So
For
fun.
those that aren't watching on YouTube, that was the Be More Pirate book by
Yeah.
Sam Conniff.
Oh, brilliant book. One of my top 3 of recommendation. I'm a big believer of, when I meet somebody that just needs it, like, you need this in your life, and I'm not even going to ask questions. I'm going to send it to you. Right? You know what I mean? I definitely won't rely on them to go out and get it, because likely the reason they haven't is because they haven't read it. They'll figure it out after they read it. A couple chapters in, they're like, wow. That was my experience with it anyways. I was like, this is me. I felt like an immediate identity shift. I was like, oh, I am normal.
Found your people.
Yeah,
Found
when
your crew.
when I read it, it was funny because I was still working in childcare, and I was like, I want to take on the Department of Education, like biggest thing I can take on to the whole entire Department of Education. And in there, they're like, do not aim big, aim for something that is like you can actually reach, so that you don't get worn out by this and just defeated and give up. And I was like, but no,
Yeah.
I need my big thing. And it took me a little while to finally give in and be like, okay, I can look at smaller bites on this and what's actually accomplishable.
Oh, man. And if I may echo that in honor of the pirate approach here, because I know one of the questions comes up, like, what are you doing? How's it pirate? For the longest time, living the dual career of professional musician, professional coach all of my life. Like, I've balanced that, I've harmonized that, preferred word, harmonized those two industries of being an entertainer. and living that rock star lifestyle, and then being the coach, which is oftentimes very, very misaligned with the rock star lifestyle, depending on what camp you're talking to. And for the longest time, I thought every musician really needed a coach because their physical limitations, their nutritional challenges, their lifestyle challenges were really, really evident. And a light bulb went off late last year, like we're talking just after Christmas, right around the time the Enlifted goal setting stuff was coming up. And I had a couple opportunities where I just launched it was like a market research question. How many coaches out there have a theme song? Whoa. No, wow, I want one of those. And then I realized, wait a minute, what if all coaches needed a musician? What an interesting dynamic. So I literally changed the game on my own game. I was like, well, wait a minute. Never mind the Rock Doctor. Thank you, Australia. Retire that name for a little bit. I still do that. And now I'm better able to serve the coaching community to be better able to reach these musicians. Because guess what? A musician's going to pay attention to the song. They're not going to care. Okay, cool. Like we know, oh, my wrist, whatever. We don't just lead with that. You got to get them into the world, right? And I know a musician's not going to go listen to you if you're telling them, go eat kale. Yeah, sure. But if they get a cool song and they're vibing with that, you're speaking their language now. And that's where this whole idea came back in. I was like, well, that's such an easy way to get a coach to sing their song. Music. Audio production. Because while many of us are challenged by the thought of being a rock star, we all have a story to share. Podcasting is pretty damn close to being up on stage. And if you're, I'll name drop Chase, he started with his podcast. And then I just happened to take one of his monologues and put a beat to it. Chase Dollison could now play South by Southwest because he is actually a recording artist. Literally making rock stars over here, right? And that's the beautiful thing about it, is that it can start with a podcast, and then we can play the fun what if game. What if you opened up your audience, coaches, to a whole new world? You made like Aladdin, right? Whole new world, because now you can play festivals, music festivals, in an entirely different genre. What if? Yeah, that's pirate. We created a whole friggin' genre, guys. That's what we did. Rock and roll. No rules. Frameworks. Rules are meant to be broken. Right?
Break those rules. Come party. Join the party.
Yeah. I mean, we got where's the right one there? Or if you want the Enlifted party, guys. That is the Valarm. I know you guys are like, what the hell was that? I know that was the Valarm. That's our very own Val. Hold my poutine saucier.
Is that her laugh?
Yeah, I
Nice.
put some reverb on it and echo and put a little effects on it. Mix mastered that and boom. This would be the new 90 minutes of action. Mark requested it specifically, so
Awesome.
yeah.
Speaking of Val Saucier, last time you came on this podcast, after that, I got introduced to her. So thanks for coming on the podcast so I could meet Val.
Yeah, hey, and she'd be great for this show too. She's doing some big things now too, being the Quebecois, right? And she's coming in and dropping it and translating all of our language into the French side of it too, working with a couple of the coaches with the language pieces. So it's very, very cool, and she's doing some great things with mothers as well, and really helping heal through those traumas of, you know, identifying with her people. So she's been fantastic, total pirate. Like, she's awesome. She should be on the show for sure.
So Val, if you're listening,
Get it.
Mhm.
Yeah, she told me she's I'm a rock star. There's no room for humble. Because I was like, why? And you're humble too. Because she's like, she made the alarm. I'm like, you made me a rock star. There's no room for humble. I'm like, I like this. This is good. Talk about confidence, guys. Like, there we go. That's where it's at. You hit a stage and you hit the certain limit, and then you really you start to care less about what other people think because you know your truth is actually the one that matters, right? So hey, you're doing you. You're gonna bring those people that want to be around you into that world, and the other ones, I mean, they were trying to grab onto the coattails to either catch a ride or pull you down and keep you at their level. So either way, leave them, right?
Awesome. Well, what events, products, stuff that you got going on that you want our listeners to know about and come check out?
Ooh, wow. Big focus right now is the Pro Podcast Playbook. Again, especially for the pirate gangsters that may be listening to this show, one great way of getting your brand and getting your message out there is by putting yourself up on a platform and sharing it. And like we addressed, there's 5 reasons that people fail at podcasting. It's like they don't actually have the confidence. They don't have the production skills. They're it's a nice way to, like, the performance, like we talked about, the performance is just lacking. They don't have the understanding of how to actually really make it a captivating performance on the mic. They lack the organization, which we've all talked about as well. And because of that, it's really difficult to reach your ideal clients if you don't have those other 4 things checked off. So what I've done is I put that all together in an online training. It's the only podcast certification for coaches specifically looking to get their brand out there and reach more ideal clients. Now, we've got a wait list for the ongoing intakes. So if you'd like to learn more about that, propodcastplaybook.com/waitlist. Alternatively, if you just want to learn a little bit more, you can head over to the Facebook group. Got a big online community where we shoot the shit about how to make your podcast better, right? And how to get your hosting skills up and how to go over the things that we talk about in the course and just give you a leg up on the other people. Because there's, everybody and their dog seems to want a podcast. It's just that the ones that really actually push go and then keep going, like you guys, that's few and far between, right? So if you're interested in that, Facebook, if you're doing the Facebook thing, the Facebook group is the Pro Podcast Playbook, Pro Pod Squad. all about the rhymes. Got to make it fun, right? So those are the 2 places that you can find the magical happenings of this gangster over here.
Well, before we ask your made up joke, is there anything else that you may want to add that we didn't touch on? Any last questions you want to ask? And
Ooh, what are you guys doing right now specifically to shake up that pirate world? Yeah. What's because I'm really interested. What's going on in your world, pirate specific? How are you breaking rules?
Well, for me, continuing with I would say specifically with Language Ninjas, continuing to create in that world and tell people, let parents know that, hey, your words can just changing a few of those words can really change how things go within your home. And if we can start feeling those emotions in our bodies too, we get to start connecting how those words make us feel. One step further, we're that much closer to having at least some peace within what feels like a chaotic time in the home. So that's my main one.
And she's writing book number 2.
It's true.
I know. I was waiting for that. Like,
book 2.
I set you up for that. Come on.
2 is happening. By the time this comes out, it'll probably still be about 2 months till the book's out, and it's being illustrated. So
amazing. Congratulations. That's so cool.
Also, we have a GoFundMe for Kristen, so she will put the link in the show notes. So if anyone wants to support Kristen and book number 2, please do.
Definitely. Please. That's the number one thing that was out of the War of Art. the number one thing we get wrapped up at as a creative is we finish a project and we sit. And the number one thing is just, what do you do? Immediately start your next one, right? You're on a ball, snowball that momentum, right? Yeah. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks.
How about for you, Carl? What's up?
I am just starting to work with, I've always worked with mainly women. And I've started working with some teenagers now. So this weekend I get to do a camp with 27 grade 11 and 12-year-old girls who want to be firefighters. So I'm really stoked about that. And I've started some one-on-one work with girls as young as 12. So I'm pretty stoked about getting to these girls before they end up old like me and wishing they had started earlier. So yeah, some cool opportunities coming my way, but yeah, just maintaining my work with girls and women in terms of their health and nutrition.
Oh, I love that. Speaking to your people. Heck yeah. So sweet. Thank you for that. Guys, this has been a blast. As always. Pure
Absolutely.
magic, right? Here you go. Are you ready for this, girl? Okay, guys. Who's the biggest pop star pirate?
Taylor Swift.
That was going to be my answer too, based on our last podcast with you.
I know. I thought about it. I was like, well, wait a minute. I'm just going to keep on the pop star train. Incorrect. That's on. Guys, I want to inform you. It's Justin Bieber.
I do. So I have a question because you put this one on the form. Yours, it was, what kind of ships are hard for pirates to maintain?
I don't remember that.
Okay, because I don't know the
relationships.
Oh, relationships.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, relationships. Yeah, sorry. I thought like for sure somebody else has already said that. No.
No.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, hey, next time.
We got 2 jokes out of that
over.
one.
You got 2. The price of 1, guys. There you go. Bang and deal. Bang and deal. Man, yeah. Speaking of banging deals, on that wait list, you get those 2 jokes. You also get the BAM. This is a fun one. The BAM audio gear guide. Because we talked about not understanding skills of production quality and such. And we talked off air, or maybe it'll be on air, I don't know, about how to split audio and such. Guys, BAM stands for bare ass minimum. I give a BAM guide for all that gear, so that alleviates all of that, and you get another a good call, a coaching call. So if you like, oh, what is he talking about with all this? Like, how do I reach more of my ideal clients? That is what we can do. We can talk about it, and then you can set yourself up on the course. I'll be the lighthouse, and you can just go wherever you want to go. Okay.
Fantastic.
Plus jokes. We'll make sure there's jokes in there.
Must be jokes.
Pure fun. Yeah, pure fun. We don't like to have any fun here.
No fun had ever.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been fun.
I don't remember how to. Oh, here we go. This is the best part where I don't remember how to.
I don't know why we had this guy back on.
I know.
Yeah.
Terrible. Let's just end right here.
All right, and see you later.
That's it. Mic drop.